Hello everyone, Mr. Barden here. This is going to be a hopefully pretty quick video. These videos I'm not gonna appear on the computer or anything. This is just going to be a tutorial for how to do some of the uh, major assignments for this class. So just a real quick review. Before I get into it though, this is designed for the teachers of this course. So again, if you're not a teacher teaching the programming digital media course or the um, a similar course like it, this is definitely not going to be a video for you. It's just going to be a general. Here's what to look for. Here's what we're doing in real simple stuff. Definitely not a tutorial of any kind. Um, like that. So definitely check out some of the other videos that I have on my channel and just YouTube as a whole. All right, with that little bit out of the way, again, this will be a portion of the Teacher's Edition playlist that I have on YouTube. And basically, I'm just going to real quickly go through some of the important concepts for the various assignments. So as you go through the textbook, you'll notice there are a few pages labeled assignment number 1, assignment number 2, and they go through the main units and things like that. Basically, these are good assignments for tracking your students' progress and understanding as you work through the course material. Um, if you are in Louisiana and actually taking this class as a dual enrollment class with LSU, these are the assignments that you have to do for that class and for those students' dual enrollment grades. If you're not, then don't worry about it. It's totally fine. This is something that you could do just throughout the course for your students as a way to gauge their process and have larger projects throughout the year. Okay, so the very first one pops up in the graphics unit. Now, I tend to give my students this one a little bit earlier than when we actually get here, just because this intro to coding unit that I have on the screen right here, uh, there's a whole lot of, shapes, basic colors, things like that. It's a lot of useful materials. Um, and then, so once I feel confident in their ability to do it, I'll pull up this code, this page right here, give it to them as an assignment. There's no rule that says you have to go through this in the exact order laid out by the textbook. This first assignment is relatively self-explanatory. You can see it on the screen there. It's just recreate the 4 images. So what we have here is image number 1, image number 2, image number 3, and 4. The idea is that they get a little more complicated each time that we do it. So I'm gonna just kind of real briefly go through some of the stuff. We'll make probably the first 2 relatively quickly, and then I won't do the last 2. Partly because if any of my students in the future get this video, I want them to do it. Also, just I'll explain the how you do it and kind of leave that for you to practice and you to get used to and figure out what to look for. The first one I think is very, very easy. So I'm just going to hop over to P5. I'll go ahead and log in. There we go. So this will be the. Um, all right, so this is for the teacher edition, we're making the square and the circle. This one, again, pretty easy. For all of these, they don't need to adjust the canvas size. They can if they want, but it's going to be, it's kind of implied that they just kind of leave that alone. For this first one, you notice we have a white circle and white square on a green background. Both of these have a black outline. At this point, these are all things that your students should be able to adjust and set and decide what they need. But I've got a few just bullet points here for them to just be like, hey, remember that these things exist as we go. So the first part is pretty easy. You could spend a while setting all the colors with RGB, or in this case just setting a green. That's a little dark, so maybe like a lime green. That looks about right. And just kind of leave it right there. The next bit, we have an ellipse and a rectangle. The main things we look for when grading this one is are they more or less centered? Are the shapes lined up? Does the circle come before the square, looking left to right? So that's where we'll go. I'm just gonna put these pretty much right in the middle of the canvas. By 2 minus 100. So you can actually not. I'm just gonna make this easier and do it with numbers. 2 minus 100 is 100, comma 200, comma 100. We stick that one there. And the trick with this one, the students can't just copy this because you'll start running into issues. So um, again, we'll all scoot this over. Boink. Uh, that might be a bit much. The main reason that this could become problematic is because, remember, circles are drawn from the center, whereas rectangles are drawn from the top left corner. So you'll have to tweak it. In my case, since both my rectangle here is 100 in each direction, let's just try decreasing them by 50 in both, and then there we go. That could work. Maybe as terms for grading, I mean, you can make them a little more proportional. That's not the main things to focus on. I do tell my students to make them as accurate as possible, but again, the things I'm mentioning is it a green background? Does the circle come left of the square? Do they line up? Are they white with the black border? Those are the things. The exact number of pixels for how far in between them, I don't particularly care about, but and we could make this, make them a little bit bigger, and then this would just just a little bit of adjustment on the square. Maybe we want just get it lined up like so. The other thing is that these should obviously be approximately the same size to each other. You don't want one shape a lot bigger or smaller than the other. All right, that's the first one. Really simple, not too worried. File, save, file, duplicate, just so I don't have to retype the whole name. 3 circles. Okay. So this next one is a little bit more complicated. It does have a white background, if I remember right. Yes. And then we have 3 circles, red, green, and blue, with the red on the top, or the top of a triangle formation. And then we have the general order of them, with red being the first one drawn, blue, and then green on top of that. I personally don't really grade them for the order that these are. If I really am needing to be a little more strict on grading with a student or something, then I will bring it up. But generally, as long as we have the red, blue, and green in these positions, and everything else is okay, that's not something I personally look too hard into. Uh, so let's just start with it. We can start with a really simple no stroke. And again, this just doesn't draw the stroke on the shapes. So we have a fill for each of them. So we're going to need this 3 times. 2, 3. We have red, green, and blue. Again, it's implied that students are using the RGB colors for this, but you don't have to, technically. Next, we have some ellipses. So let's just start with 200, 100, and we'll make it 100 in each direction. So again, we get this right here. I'll come back for the transparency at the very end. So I just copy and pasted a lot of this. So 200, so we can make this 100 by 200. And I'm just kind of ballparking it for now. And then this could be... All right, so we've got them generally there. I want to actually flip these. So let's do the blue one. Here we are. So like that at 100 and 300. There we are. Just so I do actually get them in the order for the sake of this video. The next part is to mush them ever together so that they are overlapping. Um, there's different ways you can do this. I'm gonna start by just making my circles bigger. That's a good way to start. Again, there's nothing really to gauge the size of here on this image, so that's kind of up to you of whether how big or small you'll take it. The next bit is we just need to squish the blue and green ones together a bit. So let's make you, just for the sake of my sanity, red, green, blue. So let's move this over. Let's make that 150 and make you 250. Maybe. Pretty close. Let's keep going. We're not quite there. I'm gonna swap these because, like I said, I want the green one on top. Tidy that up. So the last step, this one, it is implied that you've at least gone through the color and transparency lesson before this. So again, hopping out of order, not the end of the world. I'm just gonna, that's the wrong one. I want this one. I'm not gonna go through that right now, but the short version of it is by adding a fourth argument to fill, you can make your shapes more or less transparent. So for me, this would be fine if a student turned this in. Uh, if we wanted, if you wanted to get a little nitpicky, um, the bottom circles in the provided image, they start on the bottom half here, so you can line that up. These blue and green aren't quite as close to each other there, so we could. If I made this 275 and made the blue one, I think I went the wrong way, but 125. Yeah, something like that. If you the whole thing doesn't necessarily have to be centered, but I mean you could if you wanted. Basically, again, the things I'm looking for when I grade, the background, that's the right color, great. We have the three shapes relative to each other and the three positions, great. Red circles on top, blue and green on the bottom. In terms of layering, red, then blue, then green. They're slightly transparent and they have no outlines, and also they're the same kind of transparent. There's not one that's drastically more clear than the others. All right, so I'll save that. I'll have these two sketches attached to the video here for anyone who wants to check it out, because it's again, these are relatively simple, relatively straightforward things. The next ones start to become a little bit more complicated, and just so this isn't an hour-long video for how to do one simple assignment, I'm not going to go through them right here, but I am going to break down what we need and what we're looking for. So the first one here, the Pacman or knockoff Pacman scene, opposite of what we had before, it is now an entirely black background. So again, you can set that in the background, whatever. Then we have a Pac-Man facing left next to a red ghost with blue eyes. So basically, the steps needed, you can make the Pac-Man shape with just a very simple arc function. So that's pretty easy. The students just have to make sure that they have all the arguments right. Again, it's X, Y, starting angle, ending angle, all that, and you can just place the Pac-Man as an entirety right there. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward. The ghost is the possibly or not possibly, depending on what you expect, but the harder of the two to make. And that's the sense of it. It requires 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different shapes in order to draw. So again, just notice the general alignment. The Pac-Man and the ghost are the same height. They line up. All right, but basically what I start with is making the head of the body with just a red ellipse, just a red circle, and then lining it up with a red rectangle Notice that nothing on this has a stroke. So again, you want that no stroke command, and that will avoid the outline of the circle appearing with the rectangle to make it look like one cohesive shape. Again, it's a still image, so we don't really care that it's actually made up of a circle and a square. But they do need to be the exact same color, or else they won't blend. That would be points off. And from there, we've got just a white ellipse with a slightly smaller blue ellipse right on top of it. So the way I would do this is I would, make the white one, copy and paste it, change the fill to blue, make the diameters just a hair smaller, maybe 10 pixels, nothing crazy. Um, and then just duplicate it a little bit over to the right. Again, I'm not super strict on the grading, but I do want it to be, it's a very blue eye, not just a little blue point or just a single pixel. That would not get that would be points off. If in my book we want the big, Pacman ghost eyes. I purposely saved this one for last because this is the most difficult of the three of them. Um, Again, it's relatively straightforward in what you have to do. It's just purposely the hardest one. We saved it for last. So, blue background, nothing crazy. You'll notice that the stroke, unlike all of these, is white. So you'll have to set the stroke value to white. And then we have a green ellipse in the middle of that blue background. That should be pretty simple. The hard part is the star, and there are a few ways we can go about doing this. One is to draw it with a bunch of triangles, and then maybe fill it in with a no stroked ellipse or something in the middle. You could go with that, but it's a little it's not going to be perfect. I'll phrase it like that. What I'm looking for more so is a student using the custom shape functions that we went over in order to pull this off. So, just starting here at the top point, again, basically doing some relatively basic math of, if my circle's placed at 200, 200, and it's 100 wide, I know if I decrease the y by, 50, we'll go, from there up 50, and it'll line up. So, I'll stick my first vertex here. Um, and there's different ways they can go about this. I generally put my points first because, like I mentioned, it's relatively simple math just to move from the center of the circle to the parameter of the circle, and then I'll go in and add another vertex in between those for the kind of inner points. Now, this you'll notice this may not be 100% perfect, particularly right here on the source image. That's okay. This is the one I'm the most lenient with. So basically, as long as they get all the colors right, that's important. That's the first step. As long as I can tell that it is intended to be a star, that is the main thing. I don't, I'm not counting, oh, this pixel and these angles. Now that's stupid and anal retentive. Don't make your lives harder than that, teachers. And don't be nuts with your students like that either. But basically, we want to see that the important thing, this is all a parallel line right here. The top of the star is kind of the most important thing, but the end points end on the circle, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, and they approximately all come in by about the same amount. The very first time I did this, I just kind of eyeballed it. It's pretty close. You can again also do math. Again, it's not the exactness of the aspects of the star is not the most important thing, but we do want the students to get as close as they are capable of. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this video. And the next one I'm going to make in this vein is going to be the Paint app. That one will be a bit more of a tutorial, and I'm going to set it up in two different ways that we can do it. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you all the next time that I see you. Bye.